We, though, of course, begin with our big story. 2024, it's here. And the first critical contest of the GOP presidential race is quickly approaching. The Iowa caucuses are set to take place on January 15th, and time is running out if either Nikki Haley or Ron DeSantis want to take any momentum away from the clear and long-standing frontrunner, Donald Trump. So ABC's Alex Prochet is live for us in Des Moines. He's covering all of the candidates ahead of this caucus. And Alex, you know, the people for Trump's campaign say they're extremely confident. How could they not be, right? His lead is huge and it's only growing. But Alex, they tell ABC News it's more than just the polls that give them that confidence. So what is it?
Well, Kana, I'm going to borrow from the sports world here. I mean, you can't just rely on the numbers. You got to play the game, right? And so, you know, for them, a lot of that confidence is also rooted in their ground game here. They feel like they've been able to identify supporters in all 99 counties that will help make sure that people show up on caucus day to push him over the edge and deliver a win.
And Alex, we know that you've spoken with Republican voters who've expressed some frustration with Trump's limited time that he's spent in Iowa so far. So, Alex, how will that impact how they vote at the caucus? And then in the larger national race, will they just move forward here with party loyalty no matter who the Republican candidate is?
Well, what's interesting here, Kana, I want to give you some context. So the former president has been held about 30 events in Iowa since last March. You compare that to Nikki Haley, who's somewhere around 60. And then at the high end here, I think as of end of day, Vivek Ramaswamy will have held more than 250 events across the state. And so it's a small fraction. But one of the things that you reference those poll numbers, one of the things that we have heard from voters is that, yes, they do wish that the former president had been here, but it's not necessarily winning their support. Take a listen.
I think it does still move the needle, because I think that's important to an Iowa caucus goer, is to show your face. So that's one of the things I wish Trump would have been a little more active here in Iowa, and I wish he would have shown his face a little bit more.
So regardless of if your person is Trump,
right?
If caucus comes out and, you know, it doesn't go his way, there's a coalescing behind whoever that Republican. You feel that way.
I will coalesce whoever the person is. If it's DeSantis, I will go with DeSantis. Not a huge Haley fan, but if she ends up being the one, I will support her.
And so at the very end of this, for Republicans, it is about getting a Republican in the White House. You heard that gentleman who is a Trump supporter saying that even if it's not the former president, he will go with the Republican winner.
Interesting. And let's talk about Nikki Haley for a minute. We know she has a lot of support from the Koch brothers super PAC, Americans for Prosperity. And not only, Alex, is that a huge financial boost, but we know that they do really serious on-the-ground work. They speak directly with voters. They use mailers. They use ads to directly get Iowa caucus voters to support her. Any indication that that could be enough to sway voters in her favor?
Well, Ken, I think one of the things that Nikki Haley has really kind of benefited from as she's risen in the polls is the ad spends here. Millions of dollars pouring in from PACs and also her own campaign supporting and putting out those ads. But if you look at Haley's actions, I mean, right now, I mean, she's really spending a lot of her time split between New Hampshire and South Carolina, kind of focused on those primaries. So I think that seeing as the focus has kind of shifted back east, a top three finish here, is just staying competitive, would be really, really good for her campaign going forward and trying to build momentum off of that.
It's so interesting when just staying competitive is the goal. Alex Prochet, our thanks to you as always. I want to bring our big story now to our panel. So joining us today is our ABC News contributor and Sirius XM radio host, Mike Muse, fresh off a Michigan win, and Democratic strategist and president of Next Gen America, Christina Sinsoon Ramirez, and editor of the National Review, Ramesh Ponnuru, and ABC News contributing political correspondent and co-author of the Politico Playbook newsletter, Rachel Bade. So thank you all for being here with us. So Rachel, let's start here with you. We didn't talk about DeSantis at all with Alex. He's a far second here, but he has really focused all of his efforts there in Iowa. He's toured all 99 counties. He held a New Year's Eve rally. A reminder to our viewers, he also has the endorsement of Iowa's hugely popular governor there. All of this in an effort to sneak out with second place. Rachel, what if that doesn't happen?
Yeah, I mean, it really is do or die for DeSantis in Iowa. If you think about the next primary states that come after, New Hampshire is full of a bunch of independent swing voters who are not, big DeSantis fans. Haley's way above him in terms of the polls, not to mention Trump himself. South Carolina, Haley again has an edge, and of course Trump does as well. Nevada comes after Iowa, and, Trump is just going to run away with that. Iowa is really where DeSantis has sort of said he would sort of do it or die here. I mean, like everybody said, he has sort of put everything he has into this. You mentioned visiting 99 counties, trying to get the endorsement of the popular Iowa governor, which he was able to do. And these are where there's a lot of evangelical Republican voters who tend to like him. So if he doesn't do well there, if his second isn't solid, if Nikki Haley actually comes behind him and is actually able to overtake him in the polls and he comes in third, it's really hard to see him continuing in this race. And a lot of my Republican sources think he will drop out, Kana.
Yeah, this all-important race for second. And Mike, to you, as you just heard Alex say, he's been talking with these Republican voters who've expressed some frustration with Trump's lead, but essentially they say they're going to vote down the party line. So, Mike, what does that say to you about how voters view the future of this country if Democrats are in office again?
I mean, it says a lot in terms of how they're looking to hold the party line. But just as Alex was speaking to some of those voters, I think that's actually where American for Prosperity Fund comes into play, with really helping with the ground game and really strategically targeting digitally likely Haley voters, or voters who also too could be turned to Haley voters. And with a strong turnout and a strong ground game, American for Prosperity said they've increased their number of volunteers that they actually have in that state. And so with a strong second place showing that possibly Nikki Haley could have ahead into the projections of former President Trump, I think that gives her great momentum heading into New Hampshire. And then I think, just as Rachel has mentioned, would change the landscape going forward.
And Nikki Haley, of course, has a big endorsement there. And Christina, let's talk about some issues with you that are top of mind for voters. Of course, that includes the economy, immigration, abortion. But according to some analysis from our partners at 538, the policy differences to help the economy are a little hard to decipher for voters. So they think that more policy focus will then lean to immigration and abortion. So, Christina, how do you see that driving those decision-making that you'll see from voters during this caucus?
Well, I mean, this is why Trump is speaking to immigration so much and using words that are really fascist, related to Nazism. What we're going to find in the Iowa caucus is that the Republican Party is the party of Donald Trump. It is the MAGA Republican Party. And he is going to continue to talk about poisoning of the blood of the American people, using immigration and scapegoating immigrants, because Donald Trump wants to have the GOP nomination on lockdown before this spring, when he has 91 counts and indictments up, and he wants to insulate himself from accountability. Ultimately, for those first 4 years, for many immigrant communities across the country, the first 4 years that may have felt chaotic, the next 4 years are going to be absolute destruction and chaos, because that is what Donald Trump is promising, especially on these issues.
Well, and his voters may not see it all that way, as he clearly has a lot of support. Ramesh, let's talk with you about this. Let's talk about New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. He's facing some pretty intense pressure to get out of the race now before New Hampshire, in part to bolster Nikki Haley's momentum there. And also Trump's team is clearly hoping for strong performances in both Iowa and New Hampshire to send a message to the rest of the field, maybe just get out of the race. How do you see that playing out?
Well, I think ultimately, if Christie doesn't want to drop out, then he's not going to drop out. And it's easy to convince yourself that you're playing some grand historical role and that maybe you even have a shot, even though it really doesn't look like it. One thing that I think militates against Christie getting out is it is such a lopsided contest already that it's not as though you can say, well, if Christie would just get out, Haley will win this thing. The numbers just don't add up that way.
And do you agree with that sentiment, Rachel, or do you think that Nikki would really have a better chance at winning if the field were smaller?
I mean, Kana, if you talk to her campaign, her allies, they really do think that if the field narrows, that, she could potentially be a real challenge to Trump, that she could pick up this momentum in these early states and, start to really overtake him. I mean, not only with Chris Christie dropping out, they believe that if Ron DeSantis drops out after Iowa before New Hampshire, that she could see a boost there. But of course, this is their theory. We don't actually know until we start to see this happening, and it could very much be, wishful thinking on their part. It's hard to say.
It's going to be a wild few months.
Kana,
Mike, Christie. Yeah.
And in particular, to add on to what Rachel was just saying, they endorsed Nikki Haley. I think that begins to add more momentum towards Nikki heading into particularly New Hampshire.
Certainly, that would be interesting to see. All right, Mike, Christina, Ramesh, and Rachel, thank you all so much.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.